Another season, another elimination. The Giants have made the playoffs one time since 2016, and I began hosting the show. I was 29 years old. I'm 35 now. One playoff appearance that whole time.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show since 2019, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we get started is just by, officially passing along the news that has been inevitable for a while now. Giants are eliminated from playoff contention. They are 74 and 79. They're 17 games out of first place in the West. They are 11 games back in the wild card race. It's not even a race, like in the wild card standings, I should say, with 9 games to go. So when you're 11 games back and you have 9 games left, guess what? You're mathematically eliminated, and so it goes for the Giants. Yet another failed season. And I think, I want to paint this in the perspective going beyond just, Farhan Zaidi, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to point fingers. We can and we will. But just as a fan and as just judging the organization, the previous regime and the current regime in terms of the front office, I want to go all the way back to 2017, because in 2016 they made the playoffs. That was the the series against they won the wild card game against the Mets with Connor Gillespie and his heroics and Madison Bumgarner, and then they played that series against the Cubs and blew that 3-run ninth inning lead at Oracle Park in Game 4. Otherwise, could have forced a decisive Game 5 with Cueto on the mound. But anyway, going back to 2017, this was the first year that started this stretch where they've only made the playoffs one time. So that's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 8 seasons, 1 playoff appearance, and 1 above 500 record in that whole span. Only 1 time above 500 in the last 8 seasons. And it was 107 wins. So it's just a crazy situation when you think about it that way. But still, nonetheless, so we go back to 2017, which was one of the worst years, if not the worst year in franchise history. They lost 98 games. There are plenty of teams that routinely lose more than that, so at least they've got that going for them. But the Giants' record over that time is 584 and 601. And so that includes the 107 win season. That's roughly that's a little better than the Padres record over that span. It's a little better than the Diamondbacks record over that span. So obviously recency is more important. The worst team over that span is the Tigers, and they're playing great right now. So this is going back quite a ways. Like I said, 8 seasons. But the fact of the matter is that is a lot of mediocre baseball. I mean, a little bit below mediocre baseball. The most mediocre team is the Blue Jays over that whole span. But then, okay, let's go to the Farhan Zaidi era. We start in 2019. That was his first season here. And, they do have the 12th most wins, 447 wins, 414 losses. Now, if it was actually that kind of consistent, then that would be one thing. but it hasn't been any kind of consistent. It was just the 107 win season. So I wish I could, I could just do the math and remove it, but I refuse to do math on the fly. I actually think I could. 447 minus 107 is 340, and 55 or 414 minus 55. That's harder to do on the fly. It's below 500. So if we go starting in 2022, last 3 years, they are 9 games under 500, 234 wins, 243 losses. It's only the 18th most wins in baseball. So it's just not been good enough. And that's years 4, 5, and 6 of this regime. And so it definitely does call into question. Again, we've talked about this a lot because it's been in, the news, really. There's been reporting out there and some conflicting reporting at time, which we've gotten into multiple times, that essentially Farhan Zaidi has the potential to be fired. And we heard that they were going to wait to see how the season unfolded in the final weeks to make a determination. They go and they win these first 2 games in Baltimore, but as has been the case all season long, they are unable to kind of keep that going, and they're unable to complete a sweep. They had a horrible record this year. There's 3 more series where they have the chance potentially to sweep a series, I guess, theoretically, but their record, I don't have it. I don't know how to access that specific kind of thing, like record in games when you are going for a sweep, but it's bad. The last time I saw it, it was bad, and then yesterday was another game going for a sweep and not able to complete it. And so you just look at the road record, it's not good enough, and really their home record fell to not good enough either at 41-37. They're 33-42 on the road, and against teams that are at or above 500, they're just 39-54. And so you look at all those things, it makes sense they didn't make the playoffs. Like, it's just not good enough across the board. They're 7-9 in extra innings, 22-24 in one-run games. None of that really stands out as like the cause of their issues. There's really nothing that stands. They were decent against the West or the East. They were 500. They're 1 game under 500 against the East, 500 against the Central, 1 game under 500 against the National League West, and 3 games under 500 in Interleague. So it's just like, well, one thing that does stand out is they're 18-25 against left-handed starting pitchers. Whereas they're 2 games over 500 against right-handed starting pitchers. So facing lefties was a bit of an issue for them this season, at least left-handed, when a lefty started the game. So anyway, it's just the big takeaway is that this is not good enough. You look at a team like the Yankees, and they haven't like finished under 500 in like almost 30 years. 20-something years. I think it goes back to like the mid-90s. And whereas this is the Giants, they should be able, and you look at the Dodgers, they've made the playoffs like 12 straight years or something like that. And it's like the Giants just can't even finish over 500, and it's just not good enough. And so that's why I do think there really is a chance that this could be the end for Farhan Zaidi. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, we'll continue to address this elimination and talk about what is left to play for. There are some things to play for, including the chance to play spoiler. They're facing 2 teams that are on the cusp and something to play for. We'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, as promised, just putting a bow on the 2024 season. We'll definitely do like a post-mortem on the season when it's probably when the baseball regular season is over, and start to look ahead to 2025. I'm tired of this, frankly. I'm tired of this being how this show kind of ends for a season. I'm sure you are too, right? So it's very, very justified at this point to be frustrated with this organization. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, we are actually going to be doing a Saturday episode because I had to miss yesterday's episode. I definitely apologize for that. We will make up for it tomorrow with an episode kind of breaking down this first game in Kansas City, where the Giants are going to try to play spoiler against the Kansas City Royals. Like, that is definitely something to play for. Like, you kind of, as a competitor, you need something to play for, and they still do have some things to play for. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about that. The Kansas City Royals are having a nice season where they are likely to make the playoffs, but they certainly have yet to clinch a spot. According to Fangraphs, the Royals' chances of going to the playoffs are 90.6%. However, they have lost 4 games in a row coming into this game. They have lost 4 games in a row coming into this game. And so their current position is that they're 6.5 they're in second place in the Central, but 6.5 back. So they're almost certainly not going to win the Central. That'll almost certainly go to the Cleveland Guardians. But the Royals do have a 2-game lead over a playoff spot in the wild card race. And so it's currently the Tigers and Twins. The Tigers have just been on a roll. Scott Harris, former GM of the Giants, has the Tigers 80-73 and tied for the final wild card spot. They were not in this race not that long ago, but they've been playing great, and they've pulled to a tie. I don't know what the status of the tiebreaker is between those two teams, but the Royals then have a 2-game lead over both of those teams. So the Twins are in Boston. The Tigers are in Baltimore. So that's a big series there. I mean, those are both huge series. And then the Mariners are 2 games back of a wild card spot, and they're at Texas. And Texas, for what it's worth, another kind of Bruce Bochy, I don't want to call it a Bruce Bochy special and be disrespectful, but they win the World Series last year, and then this year they're almost certain to not make the postseason. They have 9 games left as well, and they're 7 games out of a playoff spot. So they're almost certain to not make the postseason after winning the World Series. And that was the Giants in 10, 12, and 14. They won the World Series. And in 11, 13, and 15, they didn't even make the postseason. So odd. That's what I'm saying. It's just organization-wide. There's no consistency. Making the playoffs, can't even do it in back-to-back years. And it's few and far between when they even do make the playoffs in the last couple of decades. I mean, really, beyond that, it's just not a team that has consistently, in the last too long of a period, been a playoff team. And then even, well, obviously the championships, but since then, only first-round exits, if you don't count the wild card game in 2016. But anyway, the Royals, they've got this 2-game lead, but they've lost 4 games in a row. So like they're probably feeling the pressure, and they're like, okay, the Giants are coming into town. They're thinking, their fans are thinking, their Locked On host is saying, if you go to kansascityroyals.com or whatever, it says, quote, "We still control our own fate." And that's like the main headline. And so what it says, despite Alec Marsh's short start and a tough series, Kansas City still has the second AL wildcard spot. And so that's what I'm saying is like they're kind of like, yeah, we're in a good-ish position, but at the same time, we're losing. They got swept by the Tigers. They lost their final game in Pittsburgh. They lost a series against the Yankees. And their remaining schedule is 3 at home against the Giants. So this will close out Kansas City's home schedule. And then they're playing 3 at the Washington Nationals and 3 at the Atlanta Braves. So those games could really matter for the Braves. So that could be a tough series. The Nationals, that is kind of a soft series. And the Giants is kind of medium soft for them, most likely. But the Giants, they got nothing to lose, and those teams can be a little bit dangerous in this type of scenario if you're the Royals. And so, we know the Giants are capable of winning games. They're also capable of losing games, but they're not like the worst team, but they're not the best team. That's kind of where they've been stuck for a long time. The pitching matchups in this series, Michael Wacha, who, ironically, we're talking about, the Giants not having any kind of recent playoff, even making it, let alone like having playoff success. But the last time they had the ultimate playoff success was in 2014, and it very much involved Michael Wacha, who was the pitcher on the mound when Travis Ishikawa hit the home run that sent the Giants to the World Series in 2014. So all these years later, that was 2014. Now it's 2024. Michael Wacha having a nice season with the Royals, a 3.29 ERA, and he's going to go up against Mason Black. So, yeah, advantage Royals on paper. Bobby Witt Jr. has become a total superstar. So, the Royals, quite frankly, are having a season that I didn't see coming. I don't think a lot of people saw the Royals having this kind of season. If we look at their overall like hitting, they've been roughly league average offensively, and that includes like a superstar season out of Bobby Witt. So kind of if you take out Bobby Witt Jr., they're arguably a worse offensive team than the Giants. Salvador Perez having a nice season offensively, but pretty much nobody else having a big season offensively. So you gotta watch out for. Bobby Witt has put up exactly 10 Fangraphs wins above replacement, and he is young and he is a stud. He's 24. I do want to point out, this is a total tangent, but Bobby Witt Jr. went number 2 in the draft in 2019, the year after the Giants had the number 2 overall pick. And so he was kind of like, just like Joey Bart was kind of like consensus number 2 overall, so was Bobby Witt Jr., if memory serves. And so the Giants got really, not really unlucky, but like if they could have had the chance to pick Bobby Witt Jr. and, the year that they had that miserable 98 loss season and got that such a high draft pick, 1 year away from having a total superstar shortstop in Bobby Witt Jr. Instead, Joey Bart, who ultimately they got nothing for. And I know he's been, better in Pittsburgh, but still not like anything close to superstar establishment like Bobby Witt Jr. So anyway, that's the Royals offensively. 99 weighted runs created plus. Giants had a 97 weighted runs created plus. So similar offense, but it's different with the Royals with one absolute star kind of carrying much of the load there. But defensively and base running wise, the Royals are very good. Arguably like one of the best defensive teams and one of the best base running teams, whereas the Giants are more middle of the pack base running wise, and it's not just about steals when I say that, it's about overall. And the Giants are not bad defensively, but the Royals are exceptional. And again, a lot of that coming from Bobby Witt Jr. Actually, kind of across the board, they've got good defenders. So defense, base running, we'll analyze the pitching as well for them and look ahead to the next series after that, the Diamondbacks. What is their status? And what specifically do some players on the Giants have to play for with the games ultimately now, in a sense, meaningless? So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel over the last many months, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. And I was just curious what the Giants' kind of odds were on FanDuel coming into this game this afternoon against Kansas City. And the Royals are heavy favorites here. The Giants' money line at plus 154. The over-under pretty high at 8.5. I think kind of counting on, maybe looking at Mason Black's ERA a little too closely. It's whatever, like in the 7s. But, I think Mason Black has the potential to be much better than a 7.07 ERA. So might be taking the under there on 8.5 at odds of minus 105. So anyway, again, just visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, here we go. We are going to get into what the Giants have to play for. Like I said, they, basically if the Royals can win like a game in this series, they'll probably still be in pretty good position. But if the Giants can do what they did in Baltimore, win the first 2, that would put a lot of pressure on this team. And so every game matters a lot for the Royals right now. And so I think that's fun. I mean, I am compelled to, watch these games and watch them intently as you try to play spoiler. Like, as a competitor, that's what these guys, you've got to go into these games with that kind of mindset. Like, play hard and try to upset some teams, and they're going to have a chance to do it in their own division after the Royals. So, again, thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Apologize about yesterday, but we're going to put out an episode on Saturday. We've also got mailbag questions left over. So talking about the game and getting into your questions as well. And that'll be coming up tomorrow. So we get our 5 episodes in for the week. So yeah, as I said, the Royals obviously have a ton to play for. Their playoff odds, according to Fangraphs, over 90%. And but that can change. There's like such little time left that if you start falling, you fall fast. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. The Diamondbacks at only 79%. Okay. So, over a 20% chance per Fangraphs that the Diamondbacks miss the playoffs. And so looking ahead, that is the next series for the Giants. It's a 3-gamer in Kansas City, and then starting on Monday, is it? Or are they off? Yeah, on Monday, the Giants are in Arizona. And then after that, they have a meaningless series against the Cardinals to finish out the season. But so these next 6 games are like where it's at. This is what you're playing for, is to upset the Royals and try to upset the Diamondbacks. So if we look at the Diamondbacks and what does their schedule look like who are they playing right now? It says postseason tickets on sale now on their website. Well, they haven't clinched anything yet. They're currently playing a 4-game series in Milwaukee against the Brewers. So their schedule is they probably consider the Giants like a soft spot in the schedule, but 3 more at Milwaukee, then no day off, straight back home across the country to play the Giants at home, and then an off day, and then 3 against the Padres, which is going to be must-see TV probably. I mean, we don't know. So currently, just to give you a sense of the race in the National League, the Dodgers have a pretty commanding lead on the division, 4-game lead with they have only 8 games remaining. No, 9. And so do the Padres. I think pretty much every team right now has 9 games remaining. So that lead is pretty commanding for LA. And in the wild card race, you've got the Padres with a 2-game lead as the first wild card team. And then the Diamondbacks and Mets are tied for that second and third wild card spot with the Braves 2 games back. And then after that, the Cubs 7 games back. So the Cubs are essentially out of it, just like I said in the American League side. 7 games out with 9 to play is you're done pretty much. Not officially, but pretty much. So it all comes down to the Braves, and can the Braves win, and can the Diamondbacks or Mets lose? That's what it's going to come down to. And for the Braves, their remaining schedule, this is what keeps me going, guys. I don't know about you, but they play the Marlins for 3 coming up here. They just won 15-3 yesterday. The Braves did. Now they've got 3 at the Marlins. Then they go head-to-head against the Mets, and then they play the Royals. And so it's going to be a very compelling last, less than week and a half of the season. And the Giants have a chance to be a big part of it here if they can do some things in Kansas City and Arizona. So outside of that, there are other things going on that the Giants have to play for. MLB.com and sfgiants.com kind of gave me some of these ideas. But, one of the things to look out for on the pitching side, you've got Logan Webb leading the major leagues in innings with 198 2/3. And so he has a chance to once again, I think he did it last year, lead the majors in innings. And once again, for the second straight year, eclipse the 200 inning mark. He's an inning and a third away from reaching 200 innings. So, and he's due to make 2 more starts. I would imagine they very well could shut him down after 1 more start, but then he probably wouldn't end up leading the majors in innings. So maybe he really, really pushes to not, but they also want to protect their guy when they're not playing for anything. It would just be an individual accolade there. So we'll see on that. I would definitely imagine they at least let him make 1 more start, but would not be shocked to see him shut down after that. And then you do have some players with player options here. You've got Michael Conforto and Blake Snell are really the 2. You've got Robbie Ray as well. Apparently he wants to make 1 more start before the season ends. That is the plan. And he has a opt-out decision, but based on this injury, I think that it's pushed it very clearly into the not opting out of 2 years, $50 million left on his deal. But you've got Blake Snell with the chance to opt out, which he's very much headed for that. Maybe they shut him down just like to save him, because he's already done so well, but probably not. Maybe he just wants to keep dominating to just further enhance his case. Probably leave that up to him, to be honest. And then you've got Michael Conforto hitting free agency. The plan for him was to have these 2 years with the first year guaranteed and then a player option for the second year. First year didn't go so well. Second year has been slightly better. And if you look at the expected numbers, they're significantly better than the actual numbers for him offensively. 323 weighted on base average, 348 expected weighted on base average. So if he could actually be playing to his expected offensive level, he might actually be in line for a decent contract, but he's playing for a new contract. So personally for Michael Conforto, there's a lot, riding on these last 9 games. Like, can he just really get hot? The issue has been defensively. By defensive runs saved, he's been solid in left all season. And but outs above average and StatCast, that not really a fan of his defensive work. But he's definitely playing for his next contract, and he's like the main guy, as is Blake Snell. But I think Snell has shown enough that he's going to get a huge payday, whereas Conforto trying to establish that he deserves more than more than another 1-year deal, essentially. Or this was really a 2-year deal with the player option, and trying to play for more than that. And then lastly, there's arbitration decisions. Mike Yastrzemski, Lamont Wade Jr., those two playing for their last year of arbitration eligibility in 2025. And I think Yaz is the toughest call because he's already making about $8 million this year and would be due for a raise. Wade making $3.5 million. Everybody's due for a raise in arbitration, but those guys, especially Yaz, playing to be tendered a contract by the Giants. And so those are some things to look out for in the season's final 9 games. But ultimately, bottom line, another unacceptable season for the Giants. And where will there be consequences? If so, what exactly will they be? Who's gonna take the fall for this, if anyone? That is the biggest thing to watch for down the last week and a half of the season here. And if anything were to happen, it would happen right about now. And so we'll be on the lookout, and if there's any huge news, we will have it for you basically immediately. So be on the lookout for that if big news does break. So once again, my name is Ben Kasbeck, and that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, like I said, my name is Ben Kasbeck. Check me out on X or Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow on Saturday, making up for yesterday's missed episode. So thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.